Okay. Hello and welcome to the August 4th, 2026 meeting of the Litchfield Planning Board. Will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next we have roll call of members present. Jared O'Connell, Chair.
Travis Tucker, Vice Chair.
Russell Blanchett, member.
Jesse No, member.
Letha Riley, member.
Okay. We are joined today by Jay McCarr from the NRPC. Joan will not be able to make it for tonight's meeting. So next up we have public input on non-agenda items. Do we have any members of the public that wish to comment on non-agenda items? Seeing none. So yeah, we have, we're going to be talking about the master plan, natural resources chapter, the MS4 changes for the zoning regulations, and interview with the applicant to the planning board. That'll be third. Do we wish to keep that order?
Is the applicant here?
Yeah, so either do it.
Start. Yeah. Change
start
the
with
order.
that.
Do that
Do
first.
your regular stuff first. That's fine.
It can take a while.
Could be a while.
It could be a while.
Well, if he becomes a
But at
member,
least
he'll
you
have to
know
sit
what
through
you're
this
gonna
every
jump
meeting.
into it, you know.
If he becomes a member, he'll have to sit through this every meeting.
If he sits through all of this and still wants to be a member.
Yeah.
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 So first up on the agenda is the natural resources chapter. Jay, do you have any comments on the changes?
Just really one thing to point out. There were a couple of small minor things that I picked up on. So I did make a few little corrections. Really the biggie is I did add a section on invasive insects.
Yeah, I read that. It was nice.
So if I can find that page where it starts. Oh, here we go. It starts with the big bug.
Here we are.
So that was the main point. So yeah, I mean, really, that's the significant change since last time, other than a few things that I corrected here and there.
Just a few hours ago, I went out to get pictures of the other pests. So if you'd like to pass the HDMI, we can discuss if we'd like to add any of them.
Sure, I could add more.
Yeah. HDMI, please. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, this is what hemlock elongate scale looks like.
Yuck.
Yeah, so these are females right here.
Oh wow.
Wow.
And for reference, these are the little tiny needles of the tree. So these are just like 2 millimeters long, these ones right here. I believe these might be males here. And then these are the females.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I wouldn't have even realized that was an insect.
yeah, just a little speck. Oh, and
Thank goodness our chair loves to geek out on bugs.
Yeah.
so here's another picture. It's a little less chaotic. It just shows one male and one female, I think.
Neat.
This one
Great job.
shows a lot.
Thank you. Is that in our neighborhood? Do we have to worry?
This is from my parents' property.
Oh, wow.
We have to worry.
This one,
So these truly are local in every way, shape, and form.
Wow.
yep.
Wow.
So, if you guys would like, we can amend the
Yeah.
proposal with one of these, whatever one you think.
Yeah, send me some images for sure.
What is their impact?
They suck the nutrients out of the needles, and it just slowly makes the tree less and less healthy. So like I've seen lots of hemlocks in town with these, and they just look sick.
Yeah.
But they don't die quickly because of it. But you'll often have this and hemlock woolly adelgid on the same tree, and because one of them gets on it, and then the tree gets vulnerable, and then it's easier for the other ones to establish. So then you have two pests on the same tree.
So is it the kind of thing that you basically have to remove the tree and
You can
burn
use
it
you
in
can
order
use
to get rid of it?
you can use insecticides,
Yeah.
but you have to be careful because those are very broad acting insecticides, which means if you put them near flowering plants, you
Yeah.
could kill bees.
Or any of the little critters that are living in the trees. That would be bad.
Like a rodent in the tree won't be affected. It's just insects that are affected by insecticides because they target insect-specific problems or properties. So yeah, I've treated like over 20 hemlocks on my parents' property with 2 different insecticides. We're gonna have to get the more expensive one because this one doesn't get treated well with the cheaper one. So we're gonna have to
Yeah.
get the expensive one, unfortunately.
Huh.
So how do you get up into the tree?
You get on the roots, suck it up, and then because these are literally just taking the nutrients out of the tree, anything the tree gathers will affect the insects.
Huh.
Certain ones can be treated with horticultural oil, which is just mineral oil that you spray all over the tree, basically, and that kills some of them. This one, apparently you would need to, like they are armored. Like this right here, that's armor. So it's armoring itself to protect itself. So you apparently need to do many treatments throughout the year for this pest.
Yeah.
And of course, getting horticultural oil on the tops of some of these trees is hard because some of the trees are like 100 feet tall.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Wow.
so yeah.
Yeah.
Good to know. Is there a photo that you're partial to, or one or two that you
This-
think illustrate the point better than the others?
This one is really simple and not chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
And it just shows one male and one female, and these might be the shells of the the babies.
Mm.
There was another one. That one. I
This
thought was
one
pretty good, too.
looks more like an infestation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys have any opinions?
I can put 2.
I was
A
gonna say, I'd
close-up
almost
of the
rather
bug
see
and then
this
one that
because it
shows-
shows,
Yeah.
and you could label it infestation of whatever, so that people know that this is more the worst case scenario, but, you know, keep on the lookout for these little things.
Yeah.
And this part of where I got the pictures, they are still healthy needles, but like there are definitely one thing you'll notice when this happens, you'll get like yellow sections of branches because the tree is unhealthy in those sections.
And from a photograph standpoint, this one's definitely a bit more unnerving. I guess the other one, if you kind of ignore the bugs, it is like a Microsoft screensaver.
Yeah.
Whereas that one is a little bit like, oh, I don't really want to see that on my tree.
Yeah.
Great shots, though.
And I'm just thinking, like, you know, it's a perspective thing too, right? When I'm out in my yard, it might be harder to find something that is zoomed in that closely, that's that small, whereas this gives some perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Even this, you're looking closely.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
specks are 2 millimeters long.
Yeah.
And then
That's a good image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm partial
I
to
like
this
this
one.
one.
there's
Yeah.
also this one, but I think it's a little more chaotic. It shows the males better, I think, with these disgusting looking bits. But it is a little less clear what you're looking at.
Mm.
This is another one with a little bit stronger flash. This looks like more like sterile.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Thank you.
I certainly trust your judgment between the two of you, but I like that
Yeah.
one.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
sounds good. Yeah, I think it gets the point across very well.
Well, the fact that it's actually in Litchfield is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. It's good.
Are these crawling insects? Or are they? How do they
In
get the
certain
needle?
phases, but eventually they just armor themselves onto the bottom of the needles. So yeah, these are the bottoms of them. I was like taking pictures like this. Yeah, I did end up finding a picture of the hemlock woolly adelgid. But if I find one, I'll
Yeah, send it. Yeah.
Yeah.
and if we also have to decide if the natural resources section is ready to bring to public hearing.
Yes.
I think one amendment that might be nice is we can probably, but right after talking about trained professionals, maybe make a note that
What page is this that you're looking at?
this is on page 40.
40.
It's one page below the big ash borer. So yeah, the paragraph says chemical treatments can be effective for protecting valuable landscape trees, historic trees, or trees in parks and public spaces. Systemic insecticides can be effective can effectively protect individual ash trees from the emerald ash borer and hemlock trees from hemlock woolly adelgid. And I think we can also make a note, and hemlock elongate scale. Just you need to use different
Yep.
ones when applied by trained professionals. And then we could probably add another sentence after that that says care must be taken because these insecticides can kill bees if applied near flowering plants.
And I would reiterate, consult your professional,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because this stuff you can't buy at like Home Depot, right?
You can buy it at and on Amazon. Oh.
So people would be inclined to do it yourself, in which case
Just be careful.
maybe it would be wise.
Read the instructions. Don't put it anywhere
But we
near.
don't want to make ourselves liable for.
Yeah. Yeah. You just gotta
Right.
read. You gotta read the label. You need to not do it anywhere near flowering plants. That's what really matters. And you need to not minimize runoff and only use the amount you're allowed to use because there are actually limits on how much you can use per acre
Oh, I'm sure.
because of the problems, I'm sure.
If we wanted to skirt around the kind of like liability issue where we're kind of advising them, we could just add to that final sentence, like, however, chemical treatments are generally not practical or economically feasible for large forested areas. And then we could also, you know, and can be
must-
detrimental to,
Bees if applied improperly.
yeah.
Yeah.
That way we're just kind of informing and not
Yeah.
advising.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because if you pose one scenario, but there's another scenario, but then you're responsible for posing all of those scenarios, and we're not going there. Yeah.
So I think, well, I guess everyone had a chance to review the new sections and all the ones that we've.
It was nicely done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and some new
Thank you.
photos
Yeah,
too.
good
Great
job.
work.
Yeah, one thing that's unfortunate is like, if you're trying to protect the trees on your property, if you look up like the tree professionals, so many of them are the types that take down trees rather than make trees healthy.
Yeah.
That's called an arborist, is what you want.
Yeah. And plenty of arborists are the ones, or self-proclaimed arborists are the ones that take down trees too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
unfortunately. So it's a bit of a pain to find the ones that are actually the ones that treat.
Mm.
So,
So if we do want it to go to public hearing, we could do the 18th. It just have to be posted by Friday.
Yeah, and there's also, we'll have to discuss this later, the public hearing implications of the sidewalks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this isn't as impactful to the public. I mean, it certainly impacts and helps the public, but as a topic of more controversy, I don't mind this being put up in August for public hearing, but the sidewalk thing should not be in the summer. I think you should wait till the fall when people are back in the thick of things and they have more opportunity to weigh in. I don't know if everybody feels the same way, but I feel like this could go to public hearing in a couple of weeks, no problem, because it's informational and it's interesting, and but it doesn't, you know,
Right.
it's not going to draw a crowd the way maybe, I don't know, or maybe sidewalks or something might. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the sidewalk one, if brought forward soon, could be on the next meeting. Otherwise, I don't think anything is on the next meeting from when I last talked to Joan. So
I
then,
don't think so either.
then this would be
Oh.
the only thing on that meeting.
Oh, yeah, no.
In which case, we might want to bump it to the meeting after that.
And what would be the deadline for anybody who would be putting in for the August 18th meeting? Would that also be this Friday?
It'll be September 1st. Well, yeah, it's
No,
Friday.
To get in for their 2-week thing, or is that?
no, it would have been last Tuesday.
Okay, so this would truly be the only thing for August 18th? Oh, Mr. Chair?
Yeah,
I say we defer till September.
yeah, September 1's the first meeting in September.
Yeah,
So,
I'm all for that.
Yeah, and it gives Joan a little more time to get the notices out.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, right, and I probably could make these changes and get the pictures in, but I'd have to have that done by Friday too, so takes the pressure off that too.
Yeah, so, So the- when we make the motion, we'll probably have to say with the proposed amendments
Yes,
and the inclusion of
the
images.
pictures, yes.
And would that still allow me to send you images I haven't shown yet? Or
I think so, because you specified what they were, so I think that's fine.
Okay, so with the proposed text and image amendments. So,
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to send, what is this, Chapter 3, the Natural Resources, Chapter of the Master Plan to public hearing on September the 1st with the approved changes and the inclusion of images to be sent by Jared as discussed.
yeah, so approved changes or amendments with wording? Do you think that matters?
Yeah, it was the wording amendments, basically around the use of caution in applying the pesticides, and, also
Yeah,
the adding that the hemlock, elongate.
elongate scale.
Yes, scale, you can also use the insecticides for,
Yep.
and then the addition of the pictures that we discussed.
Good, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of sending the amended Chapter 3 Natural Resources to public hearing on September 1st, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 5-0-0. Okay, perfect. So next up is the low impact development changes.
So, I can just kind of,
So,
it's been a while since we've seen these.
so you probably would like to probably just get the HDMI back.
Oh. Leafing through them and no one's seeing it. See what's coming from. Right. Here's this order is a little different than mine. So just by way of recall on for the folks who haven't seen any of this previously, So these are recommended changes to the subdivision regulations and related appendices that came from the town's MS4 consultant. And so what the consultant did was go through all the regulations. There's actually another change suggested for the zoning ordinance as well. It's just a fairly minor change in the open space section of the ordinance, which we could deal with separately, because of course that's something that would have to go to town meeting. So what the consultant did was go through the regulations and basically look for recommendations that would allow us to be more MS4 compliant. And essentially, what that means is MS4 governs municipal stormwater systems, and we are required by EPA to comply with the most recent requirements. And a big thrust of where the regulations are going is to attempt to reduce impervious area in order to reduce the total amount of stormwater flowing off of those impervious areas. So, kind of needless to say, makes sense. So we've gone through the regulations, and the consultant came up with a series of suggestions as to how we could accomplish that. And so what I then did was kind of go through the consultant's memo of recommendations and go into the specific requirements in all of these various sections and come up with some changes that we could implement. And I'm going to go down to the first one. So here we have everything, basically. Here we go. So what you see on the site is the whole appendices. This is Appendix A of the subdivision regulations, and this is where the road standards live. So not surprisingly, this is where much of the regulation is going to focus. I'm trying to see if I can get this to come down without losing it all, and the answer is I cannot. And so just in terms of process, I'll kind of talk to these, and then I'll talk to some of the other suggestions. So first of all, these are the road standards that the town uses for regulating subdivisions. There are two classifications of road, arterial and non-arterial. Arterial really doesn't matter because we don't build new arterials. Nobody does a subdivision with an arterial. So it's basically everything else. So right now, our minimum road lane width is 12 feet. The suggestion is to drop down to 10. And then correspondingly dropping down from a 24-foot minimum pavement to a 20-foot minimum pavement, 22 total with curbing. And then also a recommended change to design speed. This is actually not MS4 related. This is really more traffic calming related, but to drop the design speed on basically what are residential streets from 35 to 30, and on very local roads from 30 to 25, based on the idea that people drive the design speed or more. And then finally, minimum sidewalk width, which is 8 feet on an arterial. And there was actually no standard, interestingly. It was just blank for local roads. So we put in 4 feet. 4 feet is the minimum under ADA. And then finally, there was just a small note that says that permeable pavement surfaces are permitted for sidewalks on non-arterial streets. So that just essentially means local sidewalks. This would not apply essentially on the sidewalks that the town maintains, like on Albuquerque or on right now 3A. So that's the next change.
Yeah, we can probably talk about this.
Oh,
for a
of
bit.
course,
So,
yes.
Lisa, you have a comment?
So my question is, this consultant who talked about MS4 and compliance and stormwater, and that's great. I don't want to argue that. They're the expert. But was safety involved with this? Because I'm looking at one lane travelway at 10 feet, and you got huge SUVs and pickup trucks out there, and honest to God, it's not enough. I don't think 10 feet's enough, personally. especially when you got a biker or a pedestrian or something walking, or somebody walking their dog. I mean, honestly.
I
If
mean,
we
it's
all lived in a place where we all drove around these little cars, it'd be one thing. But honestly, I struggle with the narrowing of stuff,
The
safety issue.
Yeah, the widest normal vehicles would typically be 7 feet wide, 84 inches wide. So theoretically, you could have 2 of those large SUVs side by side passing each other and still have 6 feet to spare, but it will look very tight and you'll have to be more careful than normal.
Well, if you consider that the mirrors on each side add another foot for each car, I mean, that doesn't leave you with much, right? There's 2 of your 3 feet. So I'd like to know, this consultant, that's great and all, but like, did they talk to safety people?
Well, I mean, it is consistent for a local residential street. It is consistent with AASHTO standards, which is what, basically those are the engineering standards that everybody goes with. It's a legitimate concern, certainly that was a concern that town staff had. What it means in your scenario is, which should be kind of true where I live, both of those cars would have to slow down considerably.
Which
to
I
pass each
get,
other.
but do
Right.
you honestly think on collector roads such as, Hillcrest out here, people are gonna go, oh yeah, gee, let me go down to 30 miles an hour? I
That-
mean, let's be realistic.
Yeah. That said, narrowing the road does make people feel less comfortable at high speeds,
Oh, I agree.
which could balance that out.
Yeah,
Have you ever walked on one of those roads?
just to note though, what this would apply to is a new subdivision street. It wouldn't apply to a
Sure.
Hillcrest.
Sure, understood.
Yeah, I was driving through a road that was in Pelham or Hudson, and it was way narrower than I was used to. And the one thought I had was, it would definitely be nice for a sidewalk to exist on a road this narrow. We can investigate requiring sidewalks on those, but then you end up kind of having just moving the pavement instead of removing the pavement.
Yeah, good luck.
Because you can end up with just a 4-foot wide, like if you're going from a 24-foot road to a 20-foot road, that's 4 feet less. And the smallest ADA sidewalk is 4 feet. So it would be a net, no change in impermeable surfaces if we required sidewalks on new subdivisions.
Yeah. I don't know. Who else could weigh, who else would weigh in on this kind of stuff? I'd hate to think it's all like falls on us, but this expands beyond planning board stuff, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
And I would expect we would get input. If we decided to take it to public hearing, we would certainly get input, I'm sure. We did take it to town staff, which included fire department, police department, and road agent. And I can say that they did not love this. They would prefer maintaining wider.
Okay, good, I'm not crazy, good.
Right.
One comment I have is, do we wish to continue with the 13-foot travel way width for arterial streets? Because I think we mentioned in the last meeting that the highway lanes are 10 to 11 feet wide on turnpikes.
Yeah, I think 13's the widest, I think, that exists, that I've seen.
And this won't change the pavement size. It would just make it so that the lanes are just narrower, which makes people feel a tad less comfortable going too fast.
I mean,
Are we obliged to take these recommendations? See,
No, and I didn't put in anything the reason I didn't put anything in our arterials is because we just don't build new arterials, although it's not
but
impossible to
it's
say.
not impossible. If you have a subdivision where there's one main road going through with feeder road, that's effectively an arterial road that
The
passes
only-
through from one street to
It's
another,
the
maybe.
only road I can imagine being built that's an arterial road is if someone builds something through the that what's being sold off on the bottom end of town.
It would be, I mean, the arterial really
So-
is Albuquerque.
Right.
You don't have 13-foot lanes on 3A. So the AASHTO standard for interstate highways is 12 feet.
So yeah, I personally don't see why we have to have wider lanes than the standards for highway lanes.
Yeah, I think the one thing where like the 13 feet might be useful in Litchfield's case is that I know we did spend a lot of money on those lovely paths, but a lot of folks do bike on Albuquerque in the roadway, and that can be tricky. And so I do know that that extra foot or two has been handy when there's a lot of kind of traffic coming in around 4, in the mornings before school, in order to go around and leave the cyclist with some room.
Yeah.
And that doesn't
Although-
necessarily happen on 3A.
When we looked at Albuquerque previously in terms of the road, the traffic calming, the recommendation was narrow the travel lanes, but have wider shoulders. So not reduce the pavement,
Yeah.
but reduce the travel way.
Yeah, so looking at what we have here, we have the pavement size, and then we have separately the travel way.
Mhm.
So if we change that, realistically, it's just where the paint goes.
Yeah.
And the cyclists will probably feel a little more comfortable, the same distance from the edge of the pavement, and would probably love to have that lane paint a
Mhm.
little further left, so that
Yeah.
they are hopefully left a little more alone from the cars.
Mhm. So you would say keep the 26th
Yep.
pavement and then reduce 12 feet for travel lanes and arterials?
11 or 12. Yeah, at least no wider than the road standard. So you said the road standard was 12 feet
The AASHTO standard for interstate is 12 feet,
interstate. Do you know what the other standards are from AASHTO?
10 to 11, depending on traffic volume.
Okay, so 11 is, yeah, the one that would.
Espaju is what?
What was that?
An additional couple of feet to say that you have reduced your impervious footprint?
This is not changing the pavement size. This is just changing the travel lane, which is just paved. That's just
Messing with what
Inside
works.
the pavement that's already there, or
Yeah.
that's already proposed and that's required, is that what you're saying?
yeah, just the top bit, travel way width each lane. That's just where it's painted, and designed for full road traffic. But then we have the hot bituminous pavement widths. That's where it's actually paved.
But I would argue that if you're gonna go to that level and thing to do that, why wouldn't you do sidewalks then? I get that it's cheaper, but
Well, those ones are required to have, or a lot of them will have sidewalks anyway. This is the reason I care about this is because people go way too fast. People act like these are speed limits way higher than it is, and part of it's because the lanes are wider than a highway.
Yeah. I would say I think all those are really great, but I don't think any of the changes we're discussing here don't have any kind of bearing on the MS4 thing. So I think maybe we might want to schedule in a work session maybe to revisit that. Because we still have that stuff from when they looked at Albuquerque and
We
they made
do.
those recommendations. I know those grants probably aren't available anymore. But if we have some time, I mean, it might be worth maybe scheduling in a workshop date. But I think it needs to be a separate conversation from
the
this.
safety side of the. I mean, again, I brought it up because as a driver, as a pedestrian, as a, I guess a biker, if you're not on the path and you're on the thing, I don't know. I would like to hear what the safety experts have to say
Yeah.
to weigh in on that. I mean,
Do we have any other comments? We can always ask members of the public that we have here today if they have any thoughts.
13 feet has worked for as long as we've had this ordinance. There's really no compelling reason to change it. If it's a concern with vehicles traveling way too fast, that's an enforcement issue. The speed limits are set, the enforcement needs to be stepped up if there's a lot of excessive speeds being traveled. Changing lane width isn't going to do as much as an enforcement event would.
Yeah, but people often subconsciously go how fast they feel a road should be, if they're not consciously thinking, oh, I can't get a ticket here, oh, I can't get a ticket here. when they're not thinking that,
Yeah.
they'll just go whatever feels right. And that is partially design.
There's lots of design things that enable you to calm and slow traffic. Roundabouts, and we all know how people like whiz around those. But even the argument, and I know it wouldn't fly here because this is Litchfield and we like things out further, but one of the arguments that a planner will give you of putting buildings closer to the road is to create that more narrow corridor such that you aren't flying through there at 60 miles an hour, that the whole purpose is to slow it down because the buildings are on top of you. Again, I'm not suggesting Litchfield we have that or will have that. I'm saying, you could go to ridiculous lengths that would still be effective. But I don't know that, I'm not convinced. Somebody would have to convince me that narrowing the road or narrowing the lines to the point where I'm like white knuckle driving because I'm like so tight in that lane. I don't know.
You know something? Changing the setback requirements and bringing buildings closer to the road would make the MS4 people happy because there's less pavement for a driveway there.
Yep.
Win-win.
So that's why I said, what's the impact, the overall impact and the impetus for doing this is to make those people happy. But at the same time, does it make the rest of us happy? Like, I want to hear from the safety people.
I travel 65 miles an hour in a 12-foot lane. The highway lanes are 12 feet wide.
Mhm.
I'm pretty comfortable cruising 65 in a 12-foot
Oh,
lane.
for sure.
If we narrow Albuquerque to 12-foot lanes, what's stopping folks from cruising down at 65 on Albuquerque other than an enforcement action?
No, you'd have to go low. You'd probably want to go to 11.
And even so, none of that would change the amount of pavement that's already there, and so it would do nothing to bring us in compliance.
I'd say
It
what we have now is
it's not, we didn't propose any
Right.
MS4 related changes.
Yeah, no, it's for
Yeah.
new stuff, yeah.
Right, so
Like, I
if,
just don't want us to get bogged down in a safety
for
conversation.
Albuquerque, if we wanted to
Yeah.
look at that, it would be for different reasons. It wouldn't
Right.
be MS4 reasons.
Right. Thank you.
Psychologically, for me, like, to slow down is seeing all the pedestrians,
Yeah.
walking dogs, people on scooters, bikes, motorcyclists too, right?
Yeah, a lot of people forget that the reason that the speed limit is so low on some roads is because of anticipated pedestrian activity. Yeah. So while we're on it, do we have any members of the public that would wish to comment on this? Come on up.
When you're talking about a subdivision road, you're talking about something like, not Albuquerque, you're talking about where the houses have been put in serious places. So what I would suggest, or what I would request, is that if you're gonna go down to 10 feet, not perfectly fine with 10 feet, I would make it illegal to park on the side of the road, because nobody parks on the side of the road, you park on the road. That's a really annoying thing, especially when you got oncoming traffic. Nobody really goes that fast on this road. Let's not kid ourselves. We don't go 65 down in the subdivisions. At least, I'd say 99% of the people don't. If there's young kids in training, maybe, but nobody's gonna be going at 65 miles an hour down these little dinky roads. You'll get things thrown at you if you do it down in my area. I can tell you that.
And because you're speaking, you have to state your name and address for the record.
Sorry. Dave Rabideau, 5 Jasebrook Circle.
Thank you. But yeah, parking is definitely a concern because, like, even on my street, it's kind of annoying when a car is fully get on the street because our street has curbing, so people don't go off the road. Whereas my parents' street doesn't have curbing and has swales, so people often are a third off the road, 2/3 on the road. And yeah, if we have 10-foot travel lanes with 20 feet of total road, it will be extremely tight if people park on the street.
Yeah, it feels like
Yeah,
we should widen the paved area.
I'm talking about don't have lines, there's no line in the middle, there's no lines on the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
10-foot lanes are fine, just don't park on them.
Well, and then throw in when our landscaper comes, his truck and all his equipment and the stuff, it's significantly wider than your average vehicle. I mean, we have a hard enough time on the existing roads with cars passing opposite where he's parked. I'm not trying to single him out, I'm simply using it as an example of a larger vehicle that is parked there for a, particular amount of time because doing the whole neighborhood.
And it is a fair point. I think you would have to, you couldn't have on-street parking with just two 10-foot lanes.
Yeah, you try telling people who just bought a nice new house in a nice new subdivision that they can't have guests over who park outside. I'd be like, say what?
Right.
Yeah, I think in that scenario, we would probably have to require like certain designated sections where people can park off, which,
With single-family homes, that's
Yeah.
not gonna, never
I
gonna
think
fly.
that's not Litchfield to
Never
me.
gonna fly.
No.
yeah, so,
Yeah, obviously, we don't, and what we don't have in here are minimum shoulder widths, but, obviously, you would have to have, a decent size shoulder on either side.
Yeah.
Well, but to Mr. Robidoux' point, there's hardly any shoulders or even middle lines drawn anywhere, so you don't even know where those are.
Which is a whole nother issue we should think about.
Exactly.
If we want to be age-friendly, we need fog lines and center lines. It's true.
So what do we need to do to get the safety people in here to give us the other side of the story?
Well, in terms of safety people, we've met with the town staff. There's other folks out there we could certainly ask. Just to continue on this point, though, the rest of this section, the amendments are all the same thing. It's just to these figures, these exhibits. So one change just to note here, I didn't show it in blue, but previously what we had recommended was, or had in here was, you can see in the red, changing from the minimum of 24 feet of pavement to 20. But what we had also changed, again, consultant's recommendation, was the minimum radius of the cul-de-sac would be 70 feet. And when we met with town staff, they asked us to go back to the 75. So the sense was, they prefer the 24 feet of pavement for sure. They could live with 20 feet of pavement, but they don't want a narrower radius for the cul-de-sac because of the turn.
Yeah.
And so in my view, it's the pavement width that matters for MS4, really. Yeah, there is an impact with a wider radius, but it seemed just reasonable. So we went back to 75 feet, and there's just three figures here. It's all the same thing, it's just we have three different styles of cul-de-sac. So that's 1, 2, 3. So that is it for this section. I can go on to the other ones if you wish, and then we can figure out where we want to go.
before we move on, does any member of the public have any further comments on that section that we just talked about? Okay.
Right, so moving to the next one. These are all simple kind of one-pagers. So again, same logic. These came from the consultant and I tried to adapt them into these regulations. So this is just very simple. I'll read it. This is a new section. The use of permeable materials such as porous pavers, paving stones, and pervious pavement are encouraged for road shoulders and parking lanes in residential neighborhoods. However, the use of conventional paving is required for travel lanes, and then at the request of the road agent, that's why it's in blue. This is a change from the change. We added driveway aprons and mailbox pull-offs. So basically, his concern was anything that the town may have to maintain should be conventional paving.
Yeah, because it would be nice for some of those to be pervious, but it's much more labor intensive to have someone lay out pavers than it is for them to just.
Well, not to mention the load on, that they have to incur, right?
Right. And obviously the driveway apron's in the right of way, so that's why that matters. So that seemed otherwise it's really just permissible. So fairly benign. Moving on down to the next one, which is also going to be a one-pager. Open it. And this is in the section related to street layout. So this is new language that they're suggested we add. And it just says, under street layout considerations shall include reducing street length and minimizing total paved area, including cul-de-sacs, wherever practicable. with the goal of protecting site hydrology, reducing cut and fill, and protecting steep slopes and important natural features consistent with low-impact development best practices. And then the next paragraph, you notice that the sentence reads, connecting streets will conform with width, but in no instance will any new street be narrower than 24 feet was what was previously there, and again, that would suggest it to go to 20. I should just note that in the prior section that I read, low-impact development is capitalized, and that is kind of a term of art, so kind of throughout the consultant's recommendations, there's the concept of low-impact development is an approach to development that tries to minimize footprint. So that's term is used a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? This is more I just don't understand. On section 730.01, second paragraph, there's a sentence after where your 20 feet red thing is, where it says, where a subdivision abuts or contains an existing or planned major street, the board may require a secondary or minor street. That's fine. What is reverse frontage? They may require a reverse frontage with screen planting contained in a non-access reservation along the rear property line. Are you saying that they have at their discretion to move some of that frontage on paper and consider some in the back rear lot line as part of that frontage? I didn't really understand that.
So I think what it's saying, I've never really looked at this sentence. It's weird. It's very strangely worded.
Yeah.
I think what it's saying is if you have a subdivision and the lots, some lots in that subdivision back out onto an existing street,
Yeah.
that you put in some sort of reserve strip, basically to create a non-access strip and put screening in. The way it's worded is very strange. Reverse frontage with screen planting contained in non-access reserve. It's weird wording.
Yeah.
I think that's what they mean, though, that you can put in, basically make it a non-access area. So if this new subdivision has its own little street, but some of the lots back on Hillcrest, put in a, no access strip and kind of screen it. I think that's what it's trying to get at. It's just poorly worded.
Yeah, if I look up the AI overview for what reverse frontage is, it's a property that borders two parallel or intersecting streets, but is intentionally oriented so that its front opens to a local interior street, while the rear backs up against a major highway, arterial road, or heavy traffic areas. That happens a lot with Albuquerque, where a lot of the homes have frontage there, but they're not allowed to.
Yeah, they can't access it.
Yeah.
Right. My home's an example of that.
It's odd language, though. It could be clearer.
Yeah. But their address isn't Albuquerque, so therefore the frontage isn't Albuquerque. The frontage is the side street on which their address resides.
Right.
So that would, I don't see where that fits
'Cause
that definition, I guess.
It does. I mean, it's weirdly worded,
Yeah.
but legally, they actually do have frontage on both roads in terms of it's a class 5 highway or better.
Total amount of linear
Right.
footage, yes.
Right. So, yeah, strangely worded.
Okay, thank you.
Interesting. Sometimes it probably pays to read through all this stuff at some point. You kind of read these things as you need
Your
to.
head could explode too, you know.
All right, and then moving on. And I only included just this one page, but kind of once again, we're in the subdivision regulations in another section. And we require underground utilities. So the language that is suggested here is underground utilities may be placed under the paved section of the right-of-way if necessary for land adjacent to the roadway to be used for swales. And again, the intent there is they prefer swales. They don't want closed drainage. And so what they're getting at here is saying you can put it under the pavement in order to allow for a swale. Of course, there was some concern from the road agent with that, so we added the additional language that says with approval from the road agent. And the real concern there is, of course, that means that if you want to put it in, you have to tear up the road. And there's concern about, especially if we had just redone that road or resurfaced it, needless to say, you don't want to tear up that road to put utilities in. And also, if you have to in the event that you had to maintain it, that could impact the right-of-way. So needless to say, that's a concern of the road agent. So we added additional language so that says, you know, yes, you can do it, but only in that circumstance where the road agent agrees.
Yeah, and for that, like, I still don't. The only scenario at which I see this being necessary is if there's like ledge, such that they just can't bury it underneath the swale. Because
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in
Realistically-
my old neighborhood in another town, we had it, that there was underground utilities, it was basically underneath the swale, and that was just,
Yeah, I think almost always you'll be able to do
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I think that's the last one.
Okay.
Yep, that's the last one.
Do we have any comments from the board?
I just kind of had a general question for Jay. I think if I understand correctly, our duty under MS4 is that we have to take the consultant's recommendations and reasonably implement some changes.
Yeah, I think we have to give, you know, reasonable consideration to them. In this case, this is different than the last time. The last round we had, we needed to be, you know, we were looking at whether or not our regulations were compliant. In this case, these are recommended improvements that we make. And we do need to show that we're taking, you know, reasonable steps to do that, and the town has to report to EPA every year, you know, kind of what our progress is, what are we doing, and so, you know, this is a way of saying, yes, we are striving to reduce our impact and, you know, bring ourselves more into compliance. So,
Okay.
yeah, that was the purpose of them going through the regulations and making the review. There isn't an EPA rule that says you have to have 20 feet of pavement, but it is, right? It's kind of a holistic approach among many things that we're trying to do to bring ourselves.
So how do they determine if one town is more compliant than another with regard to an amount of pervious pavement is one thing, right? Because that's pretty quantifiable. But if you think of it in the way of the ratio of pavement to land, I mean, this town, we got a lot of land. I mean, so I would argue, I don't know, have you put it in the form of a ratio, MS4 people, like to show us and to demonstrate that we're not falling within a certain normal range of, and we're exceeding the range of too much. I mean, I don't know. I'm just doing something for the sake of appeasing one group. I'm not convinced. I'm sorry. I've been very opinionated on this
It's
subject
okay.
this entire time. Sorry, but I'm until somebody convinces me strongly otherwise, and I'm not looking at you to do that. I'm kind of like, yeah, okay. According to your definition, Travis, of we have to seriously consider their recommendations. Well, I'll say, oh, sure, I've seriously considered it, and I'm telling you no. But that's just me. But I mean, if we had to take a vote right now, that's where I would be. But
Well,
Which kind of leads, I think, to my next question, which was if we found ourselves in the situation where reducing the amount of pavement on non-arterial streets we found didn't really fit Litchfield, do you think the other changes, I know you can't from your individual vantage point predict what the EPA is going to, you know, accept, but do you think that the other changes about underground utilities and, you know, sidewalks and whatnot, do you think that would keep us or do you think that would be something we would have to worry about? Yeah.
Well, you know, I think it's hard for me to say, to
Yeah.
answer that. I think that just in terms of I don't think that one town is being compared to another town. I don't think it works that way. I think what they're looking for is are you taking steps to get better, essentially, right? So what that looks like for Manchester is going to be different than Litchfield. But what we had here were a series of recommendations, and certainly it would seem to me that if you made a good faith effort to, we're looking at these proposed amendments, if we go so far as to take them to public hearing and we get input, and the input is that, there are some of these recommendations are not, the town just does not look favorably on them. Other ones, maybe we do. I would say, yeah, you're still taking steps. If you adopted some of these and not all of them, you'd still be, I think, taking steps. Now, whether that's satisfactory, I can't answer that, but it certainly shows. And this isn't the only thing the town's doing. The town is doing a series of other things also. So kind of when you do your annual reporting, you're able to say, we've taken these steps. And I think that's what we really want to be able to show. And if there's a particular recommendation that there's just a lot of pushback on, maybe we try to make up for that in some other way.
Well, and I think the vigorous debate we're having is probably, shows that.
Sure.
That we are taking it seriously, but we're,
Yeah.
questioning.
So I, just for information, because I didn't have time to look up good sources, I asked AI about the safety considerations of a 20-foot road without sidewalks. It said that there's a difference in the perceived versus perceived safety versus objective risk. It says pedestrians usually feel less safe on a 20-foot road without sidewalks because vehicles pass physically close to them, and the perceived margin for error drops significantly. But objectively speaking, using statistics, the overall severe injuries and fatalities often decrease on narrow roads, shared roads, because vehicle speeds drop. A pedestrian stuck at 20 miles per hour has a dramatically higher survival rate than one struck at 32 miles per hour, but still trades off pedestrian comfort because they're closer.
Well, I certainly appreciate artificial intelligence's debate on something. If you give me 10 minutes with that computer, I could have it tell me a completely different story based on the questions I ask it. So, we could have rigorous debate with AI too. Yeah.
I tried to use a neutral prompt, not prompting it, because it does.
No, I know. But it wants to please you. It always wants, AI always wants to please the person that is asking it questions.
Yes. Right.
So unless you're ready to berate it and go to the mat with it, like I often do, it will only tell you what you want to hear.
I actually added a instruction that it should always list counter-arguments.
Oh.
And if I go to that section, let's see if it has anything.
I'm sure there's objective standards out there that we can find.
Yeah. Driver impatience, pedestrian displacement, because walking adjacent to moving traffic on a 20-foot pavement slab feels intimidating. Vulnerable residents may stop walking along the corridor altogether.
And I'd rather hear the judgment of a safety professional who enforces this stuff on a regular basis. And if they can, if the MS4 people can convince me that our accident rate isn't going to go up as a result of that, fine, put your money where your mouth is. But I'd really rather hear it from both sets of professionals, to be honest.
And it's like we're also really talking about non-arterial roads that are in subdivisions. These are the roads that people live on that are really narrow, where they want to park their
Kids
cars,
play
where
in
they want to walk
streets.
their dogs. So it's like I'd want to hear from safety, and I also kind of want to hear from the people.
Yeah.
Okay. Do any members of the public wish to chime in on this topic? Okay. Seeing none. So we have to decide if we think it's ready to send to public
Public
hearing. And if so, do we do it as presented or do we wish to amend it? Because we do not have to adopt it as presented. We can propose a wider road if we want, if we do not agree with it. I think it's a type of thing that we'll understand it better once it's actually implemented, rather than just hearing what other towns have done, really. I guess a question I have for Jay is, do you know of any other, like, what the side street requirements are in other nearby towns?
I'd have to look, but I could pull that. Certainly reducing the widths is a trend, so we are seeing that in multiple communities. But I would have to look to see, but I could easily find that out.
So was the intent for this tonight to consider it or not for public consensus,
Yes.
for public hearing?
Yes.
But by doing so, you're effectively creating a baseline of a document that you want them to go off of. So, right?
Yeah, like a public hearing, we'll get more comments from the members of the public, and we can decide to send it to another public hearing or adopt it. With
Or
the
not,
exception of the
or adopt some of them and not
But I guess
others.
what I'm wondering is, will the implication be that what we send to them is something that we want and feel like we've debated it enough so that it's fully baked with at least what we want and is now up for public consumption? Because I don't feel we're at that point.
Well, I think if I can chime in a little bit, when we did the mixed village, we knew kind of that the density was going to be a back and forth thing.
Sure.
So I think we had just kind of put out a number, and we knew that we were going to have a number of public hearings, and so we were all kind of on the same page about that. It was in our minutes, and we did end up changing it. So if we all felt comfortable to present it for conversation, we could leave it as is. But if the will of us, if we were like, no, we want to present it non-arterial streets without any changes, then I think we could revert back. But it might be a harder discussion to guide the public to, there's nothing marked on this page, but this was the conversation, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it might be useful to find like a middle point,
Yeah.
or something that can kind of guide the combo.
Yeah, so we could send it to public hearing on, theoretically we could do it the next meeting, but then we'd have to have that meeting. Or we can send it to public hearing on September 1st. And in the meantime, I guess we can look at more reliable sources and see what local towns are doing.
Yeah, I could certainly, at least the two things I could think of to do, whether we send it to public hearing or not, or another workshop, I'd certainly, I will go and take a look at what other towns are doing and look for safety-related data correlated to road width.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm okay with taking what you have with the changes, as long as it's understood and prefaced when we talk about this in public hearing, that there has been a lot of debate by us, and we're putting it here, with these changes. It doesn't mean that we all subscribe to this, it's that we wanna know what the general public thinks, and we wanna have more rigorous debate over it. So, I mean, that I can subscribe to, as long as it's presented in that manner. But what I don't want is for this to look like this is what we're proposing right now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, if we send the public hearing, then it will look like we're proposing that.
Right, it will. If you're more comfortable having another workshop, getting additional input, I mean, it's really whatever your comfort level is, because we
Yeah.
could do that as well.
So what we have presented here tonight, none of what you showed today was the, did you present the ordinance part of it?
No, the ordinance part, I figured we would wait. It was really a very minor change in the open space development And so I figure we'll get to that when we get to zoning. It was really pretty minor, and so,
Yeah, just one.
yeah, it was like, exactly. So it just seemed, since that's a zoning change and it's gonna come at town meeting,
And when
We'll-
are we required to, what's the earliest cutoff for when you can send something to,
I'll have to count back the
Warren.
dates, but November,
November?
for it to have effect.
Yeah.
So that's typically what we do. First public hearing is usually the first week or so of January. And so we're typically sending them to public hearing and last year I think we did some late November and some in December. So that's about our time frame. That one's so minor that it's almost like, well, unless we're looking at other things in the open space ordinance, doesn't make sense. But that's one of the things we could talk about, which we should, by the way, talk about zoning soon.
So, and how fast would you say we have to work on the regulation side of this for us to show that we're putting effort into this?
I mean, in this case, we don't, I mean, I think we're continuing to work through it, so I don't think that haste is an issue, again, as it was before when we had the consent decree and we had an actual deadline at this point. I think we should take the time that we need to feel comfortable.
And I mean, you all don't have to agree with me either. I mean, you know, like I said, I've been very opinionated this time, and I can be the lone man out. If you guys feel like you're more comfortable, go ahead. That's fine. I have more questions.
Like, my only concern is that I don't know that for me, and maybe others might have, I don't know that another planning board work session would give me any new information, whereas I think the process of going through public hearings and hearing kind of input from people that are stakeholders is more informative to me. And so that is kind of where I'm at. I'm not a big fan of kind of pushing it down the line and taking time if it's not going to actually provide us with any new pieces. Whereas we could put it to public hearing and it's a mess and we need to make a bunch of substantive changes and then say, let's kind of, right? Is that
Yeah, absolutely.
correct? That's my position would probably be, unless we're all very strongly on the same page, we don't want to implement those changes. Let's keep it as is on non-arterial roads. I would say I'd probably send it as is to public hearing, and just for the sake of starting the conversation, because then we know we have plenty of time to have a robust conversation with the people that it affects.
And I'd say certainly whichever way the board wants to go, you know, of course, is, you know, the board's pleasure. I will say that when we were going through those really substantial changes to the stormwater regulations, we got a lot of input at public hearing and we made very substantial changes as a result.
Yeah, hopefully
that's
we can
true,
get,
too.
I mean, you know, like I said, I just want to have more rigorous debate. So if that's what that gets us, then let's do that. Put it on the first. Get several weeks and months out of it, or several meetings out of it.
yeah, I wonder if we can, if it's practical at all to have it so that you're required to park partially on the curb. Do you know if it's possible to require the design such that curbs allow parking?
I mean, I think one option is to require a wider shoulder,
And
right? And then, which allows, that's what would happen, is people would park on the shoulder, and if there's no sidewalk, people walk on the shoulder.
then
And that shoulder could be unpaved.
yeah, and also require it to be, if you do have a curbing, not be vertical curbing. Like
You could do that too.
granite curbing is nice, but you can't drive on that at all.
And our road profiles have both a curbed and an uncurbed profile standard. So that's true. The right-of-way width doesn't change. It'll still be a 50-foot right-of-way regardless, so you've got
Yeah.
room. Of course, obviously, if we're dealing with open drainage and we have swales, then we've got to think about where the swales are.
Yeah.
You don't want to be parking in the swale.
Yeah. But yeah, my parents, on my parents' street, I'm pretty sure that there are actually easements in their land partially for the swales,
Yeah.
rather than just putting in the right of way. And that's pretty wide street, probably the usual 24, and it just gradually goes down into ditches for the swales.
But are developers in this town continuing to develop with swales? Because I don't see it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since that development, honestly.
That's what these guys would like.
And I was gonna say, you know, it'd be interesting to see what the developers think about all this.
Yeah, yes, it would.
Yeah, that's definitely an argument for putting this towards public hearing, is because the developers will probably show up, because
Yeah.
they're the ones that have to follow these requirements. But
Right.
yeah, and I wonder if it's possible to change the curbing profile requirements for
Sure.
narrower streets to encourage pulling off the off the road travel way for parking, because people are going to park. We don't want them blocking half the street.
Right.
Because that is
That's
really-
absolutely true.
And so
People
that's
will
change
park.
you want to make before public hearing?
I'm okay with putting it to public hearing and then getting comments on
Okay.
that.
Okay.
We could probably ask the developers. It'll probably also be nice to get input from the road agent on what options there are for curbing, because I'm assuming there's a profile that is just a standard template that they just use for that machine. And I don't know if you can get a smaller profile, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're in here. I can't say they're easy to read. They are in here. So, that's Albuquerque. Albuquerque, okay, this is non-arterial typical section. You can see we've got the curbed on this side
Can you
and the
zoom-
uncurbed on this side.
Can you zoom in a bit?
I can. It's still hard to read.
Yeah.
Let me try a little more.
Wow, I need to get my eyes tested.
There's not much visibility on the curb itself in this. It's labeled as curb, but I don't see anything there.
Right, so we've got the 12-foot lane, 13.6 total pavement.
And that assumes, is that drainage on the left there? That thing underground?
It's, yeah, showing a grate, it's kind of a diagrammy, but it's a
That
grate.
catch basin, or?
I would assume, yeah, it's a catch basin.
Yep, it is.
And then this would be open drainage.
Do we have any more details on the curb detail?
Not here. Let's go oops, no, there we just go to these. Doesn't mean that there aren't more written requirements, but not in that diagram, unfortunately. We can look and see what we can find.
Because, yeah, we definitely need to understand what we're getting ourselves into here.
Yeah, and these are also minimum requirements. They don't necessarily align with what people are actually doing out there now. It would be interesting to hear. We don't see a lot of streets built anymore. You know, Tellerico,
Yeah,
it was
it's
probably,
expensive.
yeah. Well, and most of the subdivisions we're seeing now are small.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're just a couple of lots. They don't involve a street. So Tellerico is probably the last one
Yeah.
that did.
Yeah.
And we do have all of those plans and profiles. And Firefly would be relatively recent, and we've got those plans and profiles also.
Both of those are curbed ones with
Yep.
underground drainage.
Yep.
So I guess, yeah, good to see how easy it is to park off onto the curb on those.
We could probably drive around and find out, right? Realistically, we could just kind of see what's happening out there.
Yeah. Yeah, we could add requirements that say if a road is under a certain width, that considerations have to be taken for curb parking, maybe.
I mean, it's certainly in more urban environments where you have narrower streets, parking restrictions are common. Either no parking at all or parking only on one side.
Yeah, it's not gonna fly here.
No, I know, I'm just, but that's when you have a narrower road, that's typically what you do, you post it, no parking.
It's one thing in
because-
the winter when the plows come through and no parking overnight on the street, I get it,
Right,
you know, but aside from that,
right.
Yeah. Do you see any ways at which we can require deep considerations for parking being taken in our our subdivision, or site plan or subdivision regulations?
I have to think about that. I guess the only way to do that really is to provide the parking, so either you're,
but that defeats the impervious
Right.
parking
Yeah.
restriction anyway, so
Right.
like, okay, narrow the road, but then you're gonna put the parking over there, like, what? I don't see
Right.
the point.
so it would, yeah, I mean, it would seem difficult to do that. Not impossible, but difficult to do.
Yeah, I wonder if it would be possible to say if a road is under 24 feet, consideration, the shoulders must be designed to allow vehicles to park on the shoulder.
But
Maybe.
you're already saying it's 20 feet. This document is saying that you're already reducing it down to 20 feet.
Because they can do 24 feet if they want. This is a minimum, not a.
Right. It is a minimum.
Theoretically, they could
I don't know,
pay the
any
50
developer who will say, hey, let's add another 4 feet. Yeah, I don't know. I'd rather hear from them. We could sit here and speculate and debate all we want, but this could go on forever.
So I guess let,
Wanna just kick it to,
Public hearing.
public meeting, or public hearing, that's fine
yeah, and
with me.
yeah, if we can get,
Speak for the rest of you.
if the engineering work is done for the sidewalks by September 1st, that would be great to have that
Ooh,
and these on the same meeting.
is that highly likely or no?
Well, he said he was hoping to get it ready for this meeting.
Oh,
Well, then possibly.
yeah, well, then we'll give them the rest of August off and get ready to go for September 1st.
And then, yeah, during other business, we're gonna have to talk about the abutter notifications. Okay. So I guess in that case, would someone like to make a motion to send this to public hearing on September 1st? That'd be all of the proposed changes
As presented.
for the
Yeah.
zoning.
Yeah, I
For the low
make that
impact
motion.
development.
Make that motion. We take it to public hearing September 1st as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of sending the proposed low impact development changes as presented to public hearing on September 1st, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, those abstained, motion passes 500. So that will be on a public hearing on September 1st. Next we have interview of applicant to the planning board, David R. Would you like to?
About these gentlemen here, no, they've been sitting here. Just go up.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
He's-
come up to the front.
Yeah, he's the inspector.
Let's put a microphone
They're
on the
no
table.
taker,
so we can
if
hear
you
that
like.
gentleman.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
yeah, they're all over
Thank
here.
you.
okay, welcome.
Thank you.
So you're interested, I saw your application and you're interested in the planning board and the ZBA and the energy committee and cable TV committee.
So I have seen several notifications around town looking for volunteers for various boards. I don't know what exactly volunteering was. If it's a board position and I can help, happy to do that. If not, there's got to be some other way I can help some other team around the town.
Yeah. How familiar are you with the planning board or the zoning board of adjustment?
I can tell you that I have absolutely no professional knowledge of any of these topics that you're talking about.
Okay, so planning board is responsible for setting, proposing zoning to the town to adopt, and reviewing plans to make sure that it fulfills those requirements, and updating the master plan, which is basically the long-term goal. So you actually saw a lot of this today. We were discussing the natural resources thing, so that's part of the master plan, where we say this is what we want to see in this town over the next however many years. And then we were discussing regulations, which is another thing, and then ordinances we didn't really get into much today. We'll be getting into that more later in the year as we discuss when we are able to prepare things for warrant, which is when the whole town votes. And yeah, the biggest thing, like the biggest events that happen here typically are like subdivisions, because especially larger ones, or large site plans like condos, because those ones are pretty impactful on how the town character is, and often gets a lot of people who are interested in commenting or learning about the development. The zoning board is a little different. So sometimes there's a requirement that is hard to meet for like setbacks commonly or something else, and they need to the developer or homeowner would probably want an exception in those cases. So you can get what's called a variance, which says that you're allowed to, like, for example, encroach upon setbacks. And this board sets the setbacks. An example of a plan that recently went towards the zoning board of adjustment was just from last meeting. We had a subdivision at the corner of Hillcrest and 3A, where because there's currently a duplex with a driveway onto 3A, and they wanted to add 2 more lots basically behind that one with frontage and driveway access on Hillcrest. And there's a requirement that we have in our regulations that says that you need to have a certain amount of space basically that is usable for that of contiguous dry land for a duplex, which is larger than that of a single family home. And that's partially to make it so that people don't pack duplexes on tiny lots. But this was an existing one, and there was a drainage pathway that went right behind it, all the way through the property. And there was also power lines that go through that property. And between the two of those, they both made it was very impractical to have additional contiguous dry area for that subdivision, for the duplex itself. So they went before the zoning board of adjustment to ask for an exception for that, or basically allow them to have less space than required. And they originally came to us and said, "We're not. This doesn't appear to comply." And we were basically like, "This is textbook ZBA variance candidate, because it has some existing conditions, and it's not negatively impacting the neighbors." So, and they ended up getting that granted, and we were able to approve the plan last meeting. Currently, the planning board has we have how many members?
6.
6 right now.
We
Plus,
we have an opening for a full member plus 3 alternates.
yeah. And then there's the ZBA, which I'd say is more desperately in need of members, because they only
They're a
have
5-member board with 4 members presently, so they have an opening as well.
Do they have only 4 or 3?
I thought that was 3, really?
Are they down to 3?
They were a couple months ago, unless they've added one. I think they're still at 3.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had to cancel a few
It's
meetings
really
because
hard
of
to
it.
make a quorum,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say if you can volunteer for whichever one you're more interested in. I'd say the ZBA is in more desperate need.
Okay.
Would you like to learn about the process that the ZBA follows for?
I'm actually going to talk to the zoning board person this week. She contacted me last week and asked me to call her this week to set up some time where we can just talk about what I might be able to provide. Sounds like I might not be able to provide a lot. I'm a software developer by trade. Got a lot of finance background, budgetary stuff. But I'm not sure how much I could help here other than just being another common sense voice for you.
Yeah, like all these boards are for the common people. Like from all of us, like I'm a software engineer. Like Letha is.
Well, I kind of do this for a living, so
Letha is
I'm an appraiser and a
appraiser.
broker, so I'm in real estate, but,
but
you know.
you don't deal with the
But I
technicalities.
was in finance and software before too, so, you know, when I first got started in a different town, I find that if you really want to understand the way things work, start at zoning and then move up to planning, you know, if you so desire. Because in zoning, you follow a certain criteria of, you know, it's pretty black and white. This is the rule. It either fits or it doesn't. And, you know, and you go through a series of criteria. And Miss Gandia, Laura Gandia, who I'm sure you're going to speak with, she's the chair of the zoning board, is excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could I ask one question? The document that you've gone through, and I've read the thing, wow. Who's the intended reader of that document?
The first one that was natural resources.
Yeah.
That one is just for the town.
All townspeople.
Everyone in
Yeah.
town. Yeah.
And it's just like a general purpose information guide, or,
Yeah, it also, like the natural resource is a little less, it's a little less impactful in terms of development than
Right.
like some of the other ones, like the economic development one, for example, but there's a lot to learn about the town.
I think the section where you were talking about the infestations, that's great information for people to have access to, because if most people aren't aware of any of this kind of stuff. Now, my nephew happens to be somebody who's written papers, develops, identified brand new species of bugs and that kind of stuff. And, you know, I can't even have a conversation with him. He'd love this job, or at least love to fill in that piece, but it would be volumes and volumes of information on that. Unfortunately, he's in New York State, so that doesn't help. So the part about the roads and the stuff that you're building, is that something that you would hand to a developer and say, there you go, everything you need to know and everything you need to qualify as legal for the town of Litchfield is in this document? Is that true, or is this something that you could legally go sue somebody against, or somebody could say, well, you didn't tell me what that was? There's
They need to comply with these.
Okay. So you need to have enough specifics in that document.
Yes. This is the document.
Yep.
And I think what you're getting at is, you know, and to go back to Jared's original point was that, you know, all of us here have learned and do a lot of reading.
Yep.
You know, we've gone to some classes that are thankfully available to us. All the municipalities around the state, you go up to Concord and you take some classes, and of course this is all volunteer time,
Sure.
you know. So, you know, I really appreciate you coming forward and wanting to volunteer in the town. It's so wonderful, you know. But we're not gonna lie. None of us really knew any of this stuff. We had to pick up and read a lot, and still do continually. Jay is, you know, constantly updating us with the newest, latest, and greatest of some of the changes that are happening up within the state and in the various towns around us through the Nashua Planning, Regional Planning Commission. That gives us an insight into towns right around here. But, you know, it's incumbent upon us in our spare time. You know, we all have jobs, but we all kind of geek out on, okay, well, I need to spend an hour or two a week looking at some other stuff and reading through it and reading through the stuff Jay puts before us in order to have these meaningful conversations. So, you know, it is a commitment, but it's totally attainable to learn. It's just you have to be willing.
Right.
You know, and you certainly sound willing, which is great.
Yeah.
Same goes for zoning. You would learn all the rules and regulations behind that, and then understand what our zoning is in this town and how to apply that.
Okay. So the updates that you get, is there a mechanism for the state or whoever is imposing these new requirements to feed that to you, or do you have to go ask for that kind of stuff?
So there's no one mechanism. So we've got a couple, it kind of depends on your area. So for this world, there is the New Hampshire Planners Association, there's the New Hampshire Municipal Association, Association of Regional Planning Commissions. All of those three organizations are all monitoring legislation that's related to, if it's municipal association, municipalities in general, but they're all going to focus on these. So that's what I do, is I watch kind of what they're sending our way, because there's too many bills for me to read through all the bills, right? So I depend on some of these organizations who are compiling bills, analyzing them. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And then kind of there's a certain handful that I know we're following, and kind of follow it through the process. And I don't get too concerned until it starts to, you know, once it gets through one, either the House or the Senate, and now it's okay, now I'll start to pay attention, but
We've had
so that's
to,
kind of how it works.
yeah, we've had to make some changes to comply with state law every year, basically.
Yeah.
Some years more than others.
Some years more than others.
So one of the other reasons I wanted to do one of these things, I've always complained about my taxes. And I know you guys are operating on minimal budgets. Our biggest issue in the town of Litchfield is the school. And there's no way I can get involved in the school board. I just want to understand, are we doing the best thing for the Litchfield taxpayers? As a taxpayer, I'm very concerned that my taxes have jumped significantly. And I understand that's a statewide thing. I'm not sure that I can blame the entire dividends and interest tax on the massive increase I got in my taxes last year. I don't believe that that's true, because I know what I paid dividends and interest since I've been here. But I also wonder, maybe it's this board, maybe it's other boards, why aren't we, and I've been asking this every time I go into the election, there's occasionally somebody there from one of the committees that's asking people questions. And my same question is, why aren't we doing something that would increase revenue to the town that obviously doesn't impact what we're trying to do for the town? I don't ever see any new industries. I don't see any new zoning changes that allow us to build some sort of a business. You know, a new gas station, 400 feet from another gas station? Does that make sense? I know we just put one in here.
So the best resource for that is the Economic Development Committee, which,
Yeah, and I think also the town select board, they really are the ones that hold the purse and that make all the changes about advising, and then from there the budget committee looks at the budget. And so last year, I think the select
there's a
board
budget
and us.
committee. There's a budget committee.
There is actually, yes.
Those are electable positions.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to run for election for those.
So they turned to us last year in conversation with the kind of Committee for Economic Development, which was a volunteer committee, and they surveyed the town, and a lot of people in the town said the same thing. We want some new industry. We want to see some different things. So then we kind of looked, and Jay did a lot of research on what we could do. So last year, we brought to the town meeting, might be 2 years ago at this point, but I think it was last year, right? The mixed use village. So that kind of northern commercial area, right kind of where the
Yeah, I know
gas
what you're
station
talking
is.
Yep.
You know, we've had plans come in about kind of developing that property because of some zoning changes we made there, in order to make that land usable because it was just zoned commercial. And so our options were someone could take the risk and put in a restaurant or something, but
Right.
none of that has done well. So likely we were going to see storage units.
Yeah, I'm sad to see
And
we
so
don't
in
have a
order to
restaurant.
bring some new revenue into the town, diversify the tax base, and bring some of the stuff that people want to see, we had to zone it so that you could put housing there if it's in complement with the kind of commercial uses. So that was our kind of ability there, was to make some zoning changes, but it all goes to the selectmen to review and then ultimately to the voters to enact.
So since you're in real estate, and I've had conversations with various people in this building, it always seems to cost us more in tax revenue to put a new house in than it brings back to the town. So if you put in a new subdivision, I know the town has a whole bunch of expenses to make that subdivision serviceable. You're also putting more stress on our schools and our gigantic fire department that we have in this town. Isn't there a way we can make this at least revenue neutral? Is that something that would be handled by this board, or is that,
So,
how would you go about
so yeah, with
working on that?
Again, that's, that's, as Travis suggested, the power of the purse lies with the town selectmen and ultimately the people of the town of Litchfield. We can affect change, as Travis suggested, in a section of town that already had zoning for commercial, but as he said, we were gonna get not, less desirable projects than maybe we would want, whereas there were more options with the mixed-use village concept, so we were able to effect change in that regard to bring in a variety of different projects that ultimately contribute to the tax base.
So let me ask you this, is it true, maybe I'm hearing misinformation, when we put in a new subdivision,
I can
does it
have some
hurt the town?
for the first like 25 years, it's a net positive because everything's new and like the like road costs are like a big chunk of the costs, and the cost of children to the schools varies based off of how many
Sure.
kids people are having. Like right now, the impact is lower because there are so few people having kids right now that the
Well, nobody's moving out and they're all getting older.
so the net impact is a little on the lower side right now. The condos and apartments and those types of things tend to actually be lower impact because they typically use private roads and generally have fewer kids.
But you
per-
still gotta have water delivered there, you gotta have electricity delivered there. Who's paid for all of that
Those
work?
the utility payer. Like you pay your water bill, electric bill.
Right, but if I need electricity delivered to this new subdivision that I'm gonna create, who pays for that?
Well, the developer will
Oh.
pay
The
developer
for
does.
the
Okay.
new line. And
Same
they-
thing for water and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, like they,
So
yeah,
I-
they'll spend like sometimes millions of dollars on water lines. Like in the development of the bottom end of town, they had to put 12-inch water mains in, and that was millions of dollars.
Yeah.
for a subdivision?
This was for the townhouses that went on at the bottom end of town.
12-inch water mains.
Yep. The reason was for fire suppression requirements, so that
They all have to have sprinklers now, most of them,
and also fire hydrants.
yeah.
I think to answer another part of your question, Jay, perhaps maybe you can speak a little bit to the way we collect impact fees and
Yeah.
and think about
We
that.
do, yes. We do collect impact fees from all new developments for a wide variety of uses, everything from roads, fire, police, town hall, recreation, library, and schools. So that's also a way of offsetting some of those costs.
Yeah, so we set the fee schedule, and what happens is when a developer builds a unit or square footage of something, based off of the rate schedule we specify, we collect money from the developer that the town has to use within, I think, 6 years.
Yes, 6 years.
On improvements to offset the development. So it's trying to offset the additional impact of the development. someone's gonna go?
No, I mean, just a very general statement from a real estate perspective is, you know, you're almost always going to get a bigger bang for your buck to put in commercial over, say, a single family house. It's just, at the end of the day, the return to the town is going to be more over a longer period of time through commercial. It's always the trick in the planning is to create a commercial residential balance that everybody can live with, tolerate, deal with, but also enjoy and find palatable in your town. And that's the delicate dance that we, you know, do here.
Well, you also have to be close enough to the Manchester area to be close to the airport to attract somebody, because, you know, restaurants, we've seen a few restaurants come and go.
Jobs, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, they have to have jobs to
Yeah.
get paid in order to go out to eat or.
I mean,
do
if
all
you,
these
if you drive
things.
around the airport, it's nothing but commercial space.
And a lot of it's industrial even.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So,
Yeah,
it-
like with the like the mixed use village development we mentioned, the thought process for that is the residential is the valuable part for the developers, and that can help subsidize the commercial
Right.
aspect and also provide customers for the commercial section, because otherwise, as we've seen, no one's building commercial in town.
Right.
Because it just, we don't have enough customers in town to make it economically viable.
doesn't help that septic and
Yeah.
Right.
and
And-
wells.
You know, it's sewer, it's traffic volumes, it's a combination of
Yeah.
reasons.
Traffic would be the tough part, because there's no easy way in or out. It's hard to get gigantic trucks down 3A.
Yep.
Yeah, and this town is also majority residential in
Yeah.
terms of our economics. We have like a tiny bit of commercial and a tiny bit of industrial with the sand and gravel. So it's almost all
Right.
residential.
Can I ask you, how long
Sure.
have you been in town?
I moved to this town in 2000. I've been in New Hampshire since '84.
Okay, so you've seen a lot of change.
Yeah, not all for the good. Not necessarily the town. The town's fine. It's just the taxes are
Yeah.
painful, especially now that I'm retired.
Well,
Makes
I-
it really hard.
Yeah. I believe that, you know, knowledge is power,
Yeah.
right? And I think, I know I'll share before I got into this, I was that loser who would sit up at night and watch cable TV and like the local planning board. I was in a town nearby and they had all access TV. I could watch those at any hour of the day on demand. And I just was bored and started watching those things, and and that's how I learned. I had young children at the time, and I couldn't get out to meetings, but I read the minutes, I watched the shows, if you want to call it that, the meetings, and maybe start at a place like the zoning board where you really start to understand what can and can't be done and what's allowed in this town, what's not allowed in this town, and start to expand your knowledge so that, maybe you run for selectmen or budget committee or something because you have those other skills that you could really offer to help the town. So,
And we have the meetings also available on video. So you can go back and you can, if you're thinking about like which board, you could watch some different ones
Yep.
and kind of get a sense of what they do.
I was hoping to find somebody that could use my skills, but I guess that's probably not going to happen.
well,
Because it's more town-oriented, which I expected. I was just hoping that there would be some project that you guys would have a whole bunch of numbers that need to be crunched or data that needed to be massaged or however, and I could actually help by doing that, not necessarily even by being a board member. Just, if you need something done, just reach out. The communications one is interesting because I worked for Comcast for 15 years. I worked for the supplier to all kinds of cable vendors for 12 years, and I worked in a telecommunications company for another 6 years. So I figure I could just walk into that one and contribute to that one. But again, the conflict was between planning board and the zoning board, because she said you can't serve on both because you'd be conflicted out, because they eventually end up here. Their problems end up here.
Yeah.
Or vice
Yeah.
versa.
Yeah.
Yeah. and
Oh,
we'd
it goes
have
the
to-
other way too.
It can.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, and then you'd have to abstain, and then we couldn't have a
Yeah.
quorum, like,
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
could be messy. So,
Would you be interested in hearing a summary of the ZBA decision criteria?
If that's, I'm not even sure of her name right now. My apologies. The woman that I met with to start to volunteer sent me a description of each of the different boards and what they do. Is that what you'd be reading me?
No,
Oh.
the details about what, like the types of decisions you would make on the
Oh, sure.
ZBA.
Sure.
So like for a variance, you generally go through the 5 criteria that basically allow them to not perfectly follow the ordinances and regulations that we set. So the requirement 1 is the variance will not be contrary to public interest. So basically, it's not a problem for those around, for the public. 2 is the spirit of the ordinance observed. So if you have to basically see what the requirement is and like think, why was that set? And is the spirit of that still present by letting them not perfectly fulfill that requirement? Substantial justice is done. It's not possible, so the rule and the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. The literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship.
that's
And-
the biggest one.
Also, that there has to be something unique about the property. I don't have Litchfield's ZBA things in front of me, but yeah, there's the requirement that there has to be something unique about the property that makes it so that doing this is required. So like, let's say someone has a perfectly normal lot and they just want to build an addition on one side, but they can't because they're too close to one edge. They may not be able to because that's the requirement. But if someone's lot has some weird features, like this over here is like a cliff, for example, or wetlands, and they don't have a lot of space, then maybe you can say that there's something unique about that property. So basically, just to summarize, it's basically just figuring out, just balancing the uniqueness of the property, the uniqueness of the property, and if the benefits to the applicant is greater than the negatives to those around it.
Are the people that they serve generally homeowners, or are they contractors or builders?
All the above.
All the above.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's anyone who's doing any development. If it's just putting in a pool, and they find, like one of them was, they were putting in a pool, and they were building a deck for that pool, but the deck would have been in the wetlands, or too close to the wetlands. It would be within the wetlands buffer. During the meeting, the inspector pointed out that you can just put the deck on the other side of the pool.
But they didn't want to probably put it on.
Oh,
the
they
outside.
didn't realize that. Once they thought of that, they're like, oh yeah, we'll withdraw. So that's the type.
But I have seen instances like that, for instance, where, someone might have a valid argument socially, like, if I'm in the kitchen and I'm looking out at my kids at the pool, I want to be able to see them, or something. And if the way and the positioning of where that pool is not just so, and somebody suggests they put it here instead in order to meet the requirements, that may or may not be enough
Sure.
to enable them to put it where they want to.
Right.
It's just,
And there's definitely plenty of times where you have to say, no, this is not unique, or there's no, like, we don't see why you need this other than you want it type of thing. So, like, one common one, have you heard of a paper road?
No.
So, there's a lot of properties that have a paper road, which is a right of way that isn't paved, basically, but is technically a right of way to access a property. And a lot of people run into the fact that the way the way the ordinances are written, that is considered a front yard. The people who are adjacent to a paper road have 2 front lawns, and they have front frontage on 2 sides, which does significantly impact how much room they have to build stuff. So I've seen a lot of cases go to the ZBA where they're next to a paper road and they want to put something close to that paper road, and they don't see a problem because there's nothing there.
It just looks like land.
It's just land. But I have seen instances like with the Talarico Street development where
Yep.
a road does go in, and now someone's house is really close to the street, and then they weren't happy. And then
That's
they
why
got
I moved. I moved here because my house in the other town had a paper road. I knew it was there. Buyer beware. That was on me. But when I found out that they were contemplating putting a road there, I didn't want to be a corner lot. So, for sale.
nice.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And like, so yeah, the developer was on he wasn't required to, but he ended up putting a fence into that property because that person cared a lot about that. And there was an instance where that was denied near the school.
Mhm.
And someone wanted to put a vehicle containing shed like 3 feet away from the paper road, and they got denied for that because it's just a corner lot, and it is a paper road. And while you can make the argument that the paper road isn't being used, that doesn't mean that in the future it won't. And that's what the ordinance are, and we set the ordinances for a reason. So those are the type of things that the ZBA contemplates.
If you don't mind me asking you guys a personal question, you guys are obviously a lot younger than I am. What brings you to this board? Why did you want to serve?
I guess we can each go, so I'll go first. So I like knowing about what's going on in town, and when I learned about the process, I started watching the meetings at like 2 times speed.
We're all geeks.
And looking at the documents and just learning about them and seeing what's going where, and wanted to contribute to help make sure the town is heading in a good direction, and all the requirements are being fulfilled, and so I could provide my input on all that stuff and hopefully balance the interests of all the different parties, including developers, business owners, homeowners, other residents, stuff like that.
I think that's beautiful. And also, when I joined the board, it was after I think they'd had 2 meetings that they couldn't conduct any business because there was no quorum. So then I called Joan and I was like, hey, if you need an opening, and so that's kind of why it was this much smaller board. I think you were the only face on it when I joined. So there were some changes a few years ago and some turnover, and so it was when duty calls, you show up, and so that's why it's great to see you volunteer and put your name forward, and also for other things in town, because there's always a need.
Wow, it's one way to keep your taxes down, voluntary, everything.
Exactly.
I just wish our budget committee would realize that not every little plant on the side of the road needs a budget item. That's what fundraisers used to be for back in, when I was maybe your age. So that's great. I just didn't expect to see, I'm assuming you guys are much younger than I am. I don't know. I didn't expect to see 2 young guys here. Not to say that you guys are old. Look older. You look older. I know you're older. I'm old because of the gray hair. Yeah.
We just really take care of our skin.
You must be, and you got a great hair dye too.
Just the sun.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good to have a good variety of thoughts and opinions, because diversity of thought is valuable.
Sure.
And yeah, it's good to have people of all ages because we may have different life experiences and see things
Right.
differently.
And I think it's always important too that when we talk about a lot of this stuff, you know, at least in the planning area, you know, I'm always thinking in the back of my mind of, okay, that's great, but what's in it for Litchfield? You know, like if somebody comes and asks us for something, or a developer asks us to consider a site plan that looks like this or whatever, I'm like, okay, I see what's in it for you, but what's in it for us? You know, so.
Oh, you're
and-
representing the
Yeah,
town.
and you know, you have to balance all that,
And a lot of it is we have to get everything, the ordinances and regulations correct from the start because once the developers come in, if they're
yeah.
following the requirements, there's not much we can do to stop them.
Precedent is a really dangerous thing if you allow it to establish itself in a way that might not be exactly what you want. So we debate a lot about what could happen,
Yeah.
good, bad, and ugly,
Yep.
just in case. And Jay's been a fabulous resource for us to point out, you know, what maybe some growing pains of some other towns. And you know, Joan McGibbon, she's not here this evening,
Joan's
but she, you know, she's a wealth of knowledge for having been here for years. And I know I'll often look to Russ Blanchett over here because he was on our planning board years before, kind of, I guess, went into a little retirement and then decided to come back and help out. And so oftentimes, you know, getting the perspective of some of the people in town of like, why was something done back then? Can you give us some perspective on it? I find it really helpful. Because I moved here in 2020 and the town I moved from was a lot bigger and had its own planning department. So just understanding how this town, smaller town, did things was an education for me. And you really had to rely on kind of the history of what had been done here and the respect of the decisions that came before this board in the years that preceded it to understand truly, like, there was a lot of thought involved in why they did things a certain way. And it may not be appropriate now, but it might still have some merits that should be considered. So I feel like, you know, each one of us, I feel like, has brought something to the table to help move those discussions.
Yeah, and talking about precedent, like one case of precedent causing twist bending of the rules is and we addressed it in the last cycle of ordinances, was the square footage requirements for accessory dwelling units. Are you familiar with accessory dwelling units? They're informally called an in-law apartment.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's basically a unit that is on a property either attached to the main house or detached. That is a full dwelling unit where it has its own septic, or it's designed to tie into the main septic. It has a full kitchen, has 1 to 2 bedrooms, and is no more than 1,300 square feet. One of our older inspectors, for some reason, subtracted certain closets and stuff from the square footage for we don't know why, and people ended up getting a lot bigger ones than the old ordinances allowed. So we ended up clarifying what counts as square footage in the recent amendment, but we also increased it a little bit to make it a little less tight, because at those sizes, it's just square footage is more like luxury than a cost to the town, up to an extent.
Well, we were bumping up into some people saying that it wasn't financially feasible if they were going to put something on. It had to be of a certain size, otherwise it wasn't worth doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Depends
can
how
get
much you like your in-laws.
Sorry.
Depends how much you like your in-laws.
Well, yeah.
yeah. So that's an example of one thing we've done, and precedent.
So, I think ultimately we need to decide whether or not we would like to send you to the select board. Does this interest you? Do you think the other two, zoning,
I
might
think
be
they're
more?
all gonna be about the same. I'm gonna be able to walk in knowing as much as I did, about as much as I do here. Again, voice of reason maybe.
So it'll be up to you if you want us to, if you would like to make a commitment now, or if you'd like to come back for the next meeting, or
I think I'd like to talk to the zoning board person, because if they're down 2 people, that seems like if I'm coming in blind either way, I should probably go fill a hole rather than fill a leak. Just out of curiosity, the people that leave, why did they leave?
Life.
Life.
I
Just
mean,
getting
no,
it.
seriously, our past chair, was our chair for a really long time, and had been on the planning board for a really long time, and I think he believed he had served the town
Yep.
well and
Okay.
moved on, and,
He got a new job.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that too. And then also, our vice president, I believe, was he our vice president? I can't remember.
Secretary.
Oh, secretary, okay. He had also been on the board for a long time, and I think his children are at an age where they were, life happens, right? So he wanted to spend a lot of time with them, and I get that. So,
I'm surprised you don't have more retired people here.
we've got plenty of retired
Well-
people in town.
Oh,
but I don't
I know.
why they're not.
I work the polls, as I'm sure some of you guys do too, and I try to convince some of the people working the polls that they should be, volunteering for town committees. So for that very reason, because you have the time, you have experience, a life experience that is very helpful.
It's not like these are physically demanding positions, as far as I can tell.
2 meetings a month. Most of these boards, ZBA included, 2 meetings a month, and sometimes in the
ZBA is
summer,
once.
as you may have heard earlier in the meeting, I begged off the second August meeting because, it's August, and we don't have anybody anyway.
Yeah,
But-
Heavy
ZBA's
lifting, you don't go home dirty.
Yeah,
It's pretty easy work.
Yep, ZBA's once a month, and it often doesn't meet every month because
Okay.
it's only when
Yeah.
there are.
Right.
When there's issues.
We have a
Sure.
statutory requirement to meet at least once a month,
yeah.
but the other boards and committees do not.
Mhm.
So there's always gonna be a planning board meeting in any given month.
Okay. All right. One question I had as a listener. These changes that this organization, the M3 committee or whatever they are, they're suggesting that you make,
Yep.
that's to new stuff, right? All these other things are
Yes.
grandfathered in?
Yes.
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 Yeah, we're not gonna be repainting the lines down Albuquerque.
Well, I know, but, so for example,
But if we
my-
build an extension to Albuquerque,
Yeah,
it'll
yeah,
be
yeah.
to the new standard.
my road just got eaten alive and then repaved. I'm wondering if those would apply to that? No.
No.
Okay.
Whenever we make changes, it's only to future projects and developments.
Yeah. Existing infrastructure changes are the purview of the selectmen. So if the selectmen wanna narrow the roads or make changes of that sort,
It's there.
that's their purview.
That's good.
So,
All right. I will contact Joan,
Great.
Joan,
Great.
and let you know how I dealt with the planning, or the zoning board, because, again, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the ZBA has always been in need of volunteers, so hopefully you can watch the meetings, learn about the process, talk
Yep.
to their chair, and
So it was interesting, Joan had suggested that I go look at the minutes and the meeting notes and the agenda. So I went on the litchfield.gov site, navigated down, and she said, here, look at this specific date and this specific date for each of these separate documents, and they weren't there. So I emailed her back, and she sent me a different link that had Litchfield, but it was later on down the URL. Do you guys have hidden stuff?
No, that's that
Yeah.
portal.
Yeah.
That's a portal where all the documents reside for the meetings, and that's available to the public to see. It's just, our
Yeah, it's not hidden, it's just
It's
the
crazy. It's hard to
navigation
get
can be
to.
challenging on the
yeah,
website.
It's not on purpose. It simply, if you spend a lot of time on their website and you click enough times, you'll get there, but it's not
Yeah,
very
search
apparent.
is not.
Yeah, it's
Good.
not very apparent.
So from julianh.gov for planning specifically, if you go to, it's loading, government, it's loading still, and then planning board, you'll get all the documents for the planning board.
You'll get there. You just have to search around a little bit. Same thing with zoning board.
On the left, there's planning board meeting portal as a link. It's not that obvious, and that's what brings you to the documents that we look at during that meeting. It's very,
I always just type it in.
I was gonna say, I just have it
Type
as
it.
a favorite on my
I also
browser,
type it.
so I wouldn't even know, like,
yeah.
how to navigate to it anymore, but.
If you really want to nerd out, the meetings are on YouTube. Going back to 2014, when we
YouTube.
started recording planning board meetings.
Really?
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
I
for
love the one that
everything.
made national news. There was a Litchfield planning board meeting that made like the Jon Stewart show. Like
It wasn't planning board.
It was,
but it
the
was-
mosquito.
Yeah.
Oh, mosquito control. Like they made fun. They're like, look at this small town meeting where these two guys are sitting there, like public, anyone, and they're showing crickets in the room. Like there's nobody in there. Oh my god, it was some comedian that had put
John
it out there. I
Oliver.
think, was it John Oliver?
yeah,
Okay.
last
Oh
week
my
tonight.
god! And I was like, oh my gosh, that's Litchfield.
Yeah.
It's hysterical.
Or
I
famous.
used a
Yeah, if you-
a frame
if
from
you
my
Google that, I'm
standard
sure you'll
shot of
find it.
the
It's pretty
audience
funny.
being empty. It was great.
Yeah, mosquito control.
It's very well executed.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, there's also under government, there's also the ZBA page, and as well as other departments that you may want to consider volunteering on. And they have the list of members, the portal link, their bylaws, the zoning ordinances, and the ZBA variance application. So, yeah, currently it shows two. So there's currently George Lavash.
Yeah, there's 3 members.
Yeah.
But if you have trouble finding something, just ask Joan. She'll
Yes,
she'll
Joan.
steer you.
yeah.
Sounds good. All right,
Thank you for
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Appreciate your
coming
time.
out.
volunteering and.
Oh, hopefully we'll get one place or the other. Guys, all have a good night.
All right,
much. You too. Have a good
Take
night.
care.
I gotta wait for my leg to wake up.
Yeah. Aw.
I hate that when that happens. All right, you have a good night.
Thank you. You as well.
You as well.
Okay.
I believe so.
So, next we'll have some other business to talk about, but in the meantime, we'll go through the usual order. Next, we have committee reports. Do you have any committee reports?
Yes, CIP committee met last night. Jay, I may need your help on this because it doesn't actually say in the minutes, but I think our next meeting is August the 12th.
No, it's the 31st.
Oh, so we didn't decide to do that?
Unless I was confused, because we were back and forth a lot.
Yeah, we were a little bit.
I thought it
I
was the
did put it in my
31st.
calendar.
We better double check that.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
So, okay, tentatively, there may be a CIP meeting on August the 12th, but if not, it would be the 31st for presentations and then for the schedule that we approved last evening. So then it would be August the 31st, September 9th would be additional town presentations. September 14th is when the superintendents will give us their presentations, and then we have another one if needed so that we can make all the final kind of, decisions and priority rankings by October. So definitely keep an eye out for those meetings, and there's lots of stuff being put forth for us to kind of rank and give to the select board. So things like the new police station, things with fire trucks, things with smaller library things. So there's lots and lots of things. So if you like to kind of follow what kind of capital improvement projects the town is looking at and how we kind of plan, keep an eye out for that, and we'll have more after the future meetings because now it's really the meat and potatoes of the process.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa?
Yeah, we had the check committee the other night. That's the circumferential highway
Exploratory.
Evaluation.
committee.
Like that.
Yeah,
Check.
check.
Exploratory, right.
CHEC. So the bulk of the meeting was really, we had a citizen business owner who was with us most of the evening. He had written some letters, this is Noel's Tree Farm, he had written some letters to the boards, and I believe those were distributed? I believe they were distributed to this board as well. Did you
One of
guys?
them might have been.
Okay, did you all receive an email? I will ask Jen to send them forward, I thought they would already push forward, but, they were sent to me a few weeks ago prior to the CHEC meeting, but I believe at this meeting last time, the planning board meeting last time, I had said that I wanted to first have that addressed at the CHEC meeting first before I bring it to the planning board. So we will make sure you get copies of that. It was a concern because Noel's Tree Farm actually is a direct abutter to the property in question, or one area of the vast property in question where one of the major rights of way goes through that would be under consideration, and it actually bifurcates or bisects, if you will, his property. I think going into the meeting last time, we were under the assumption that, and maybe hadn't drilled down too far, thought it was only on one side, but it actually goes right through, that right of way goes right through his property.
And
So-
technically speaking, the right of way is already there, right?
It's
Yes.
it's specifically,
It's not
it's a
paved.
right of way for what was intended to be industrial drive.
Yes. Quasi paper. Get out there, it's sort of worn path, but it's, anyway. Without getting into the thick of things, I would say a conversation of understanding between ourselves, understanding the lay of the land, understanding what we were dealing with, listening to his concerns, getting them on record, that sort of thing. And sort of going through what options, if any, were available, may be available to him, and the to-dos coming out of that meeting were to better understand the deeds, the easements, the legal stuff behind it, because we were sitting there kind of feeling our way through it, and what we decided was we need to stop that conversation and start to do a little research. And Diane Plansky, who isn't here tonight, she's the chair of that, was taking some things offline. I was having some conversations with DOT to better understand too some of the decisions we could make as a town and what's available, and so that we do all of the consider all of the right things to then be able to put forth ultimately a recommendation to the select board, which is our charge. Our charge is not to make a decision, it's to provide enough information, context, and recommendation to the select board so that they can make a decision that is, a good one for the town, and of course we're considering all those things. So, it's to be continued. There's lots of that. I don't know, did I cover everything? I mean, in general?
Yeah, I just think what's gonna be particularly relevant to this board when we get into zoning discussion, because this is a discussion of the committee also, is what is our plan? Right, the zoning scheme that exists now was for a time when the highway was gonna come through.
Yeah.
It's no longer true, and I think one of the maps that jumped out at me that Jason Brennan put together, I believe, is just the right-of-way land, overlay it with the existing zoning, and you've got the property falls into 4 or 5 different zoning districts.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so it's really something for us to think about when we look at that.
Yeah.
Does that reflect what we want to see in the future?
And I think at its core, we really wanted people to think long and hard about what don't you want to see there? What do you want to see there? And then figure out the zoning from there. right?
Right.
Like, start with that. You know,
Yeah.
don't want that, don't want this. Yeah, we'd like that. And then kind of go from there.
What
So,
we do know is that never happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's kind of silly that it's still chopped up and it doesn't even make any sense, right? Because the way the lot lines are and the things, they're like crossover zones, like it's bizarre. Like there'll be like one lot with 3 different zoning. I mean, it's crazy. So
Right.
just is what it is.
Do you have any context for why, like, that subdivision ended up bumping a huge section of residential into the commercial section? Like, was that done, or did that get changed over time for that
I think
development?
it just got changed over time.
Which
didn't it?
subdivision?
Um,
Oh, you mean
The
that?
yellow on the far right. Yeah.
Oh, the green around it is transitional zone, and that was specifically to protect it.
yeah, and was this done after this?
Yes, that
Yeah.
street existed, before that zoning.
Yeah, Cutler Road is pretty old.
Yeah, because at one point there
Right.
was talk of a quarry to go in there, or an
Asphalt plant.
asphalt plant. I'm sorry.
So that was
asphalt
smelly.
plant. And that had a lot of impact on the neighbors to the south. There's a neighborhood technically in Hudson,
Yeah.
right over the line, where apparently, for those with historical context, at the meeting, they were saying that meeting drew the ire of those neighbors, and they actually had to call the police and shut down the meeting. Like, yeah, it got that bad. So it,
Right,
yeah,
That would be a regional impact for
yes,
sure.
it would.
Yeah.
So needless to say, it's something that we're gonna want to think about, zoning wise, and I'm sure the committee's gonna have thoughts as well.
sure.
Yeah,
So,
sounds good. Thank you. I think that's it for committee reports. So next will be approving the July 21st, 2026 minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review those? There's one section where it says Miss Moreau confirmed that the sidewalk improvements would be incorporated into the Colby Farm development plans. That sounds like something that, Rick Charbonneau would say, because he was the one that,
What page?
this is on page 2 of the minutes, on paragraph 5th down from the top of that page.
Yeah, I think he did say that.
he did say
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
yeah,
That will be the- Okay.
yeah.
Because it's also part of the, so Colby Farm is the new one that hasn't been built yet.
No.
And
Oh, I think.
what's the name?
Oh,
I thought Colby, because Colby Farm
Yeah.
is with Colby Road.
Okay.
yeah, I think the
Yeah.
reference to Colby Farm is incorrect.
Yeah, it's Corning Farm.
It's Corning.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
it's
right.
Corning, yeah.
Because
All these
the
farms.
confusing thing about
Right,
this.
right. It's
Yeah.
Corning Farm.
The
Okay.
confusing thing about this is it's going in both Corning Farms and Colby Farms developments. Just the part in his development is going in the Corning Farm.
Right, 'cause
And the other part.
it
that-
was his
So in that
obligation.
paragraph, Colby Farm, Moores Falls, and then the last one should not be Colby Farm, it should be Corning Farm.
It should
Is
be
that what
Corning
you're
Farm.
saying? Yeah.
Yes,
So,
so that's the
so
change. So
that,
it should be,
that paragraph is fine up until the last 2 words.
right, so it should be, Mr. Moreau confirmed that the sidewalk improvements will be incorporated into the Corning Farm development.
And interestingly, it's also, parts of it are also going into the Colby Farm
Right,
development.
but it's, in this case, it was his requirement as
Yeah.
part of that to do this, so it's, yeah, it should be
But
Corning Farm.
The next sentence, the end of the next sentence should also say, to the northern entrance of Corning Farm, shouldn't it? Because effectively it is going by,
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Yes,
so it should be listed twice as
yes,
Corning
should be,
Farm.
yes, it should be listed twice as Corning Farm.
Yep. Do we have to, usually, Joan makes the notes on the amendments, right?
Yeah, I'll just convey it to her.
Sounds good. So,
So just to confirm, the second Colby Farm stays?
The
so
second one stays, yeah.
You mean the same paragraph?
So, Mr. Moreau confirmed that the sidewalk improvements will be incorporated into the
Corning,
Corning
Farm
Farm.
development plans. The
Right.
sidewalk constructed as part of the,
Colby Farm project.
It's,
I'd say that doesn't.
no, the second one should be Corning
Yeah.
Farm also.
I think this, for this one paragraph, it's all
It's all Corning Farm.
Corning Farm.
Yeah,
All these farms.
we're a farm town.
Yeah, I love it, but I'm not used to them having names like that.
But if he's talking about a continuous pedestrian route, that's why I say keep that Colby Farm. Because he's saying the sidewalk that's being developed as part of Colby Farm extends up through Moore's Falls, which then extends up into his,
Colby Farm's on the opposite side of the street.
Yeah,
yes.
because the
but
complicating factor is the gas station was responsible for the sidewalk from the gas station to Albuquerque.
But where it crosses it, yeah.
And
Yeah,
then-
so this is from Moore's Falls to the northern entrance of Corning Farm. That's
Which-
what he's building.
which was going to be required for Corning Farm, and that would have been within the conservation area. But
Right.
there were complications, so now it's going outside of that.
Right.
And then Rick Charbonneau decided that he'll take over that section and incorporate that as a part of Colby Farm, and then Moreau, Mr. Moreau would be responsible then for extending the portion inside of his all the way to his second driveway.
Right. So both of these should be Corning Farm.
Yeah, these ones should be Corning Farm. Yes.
All three of them.
Yeah, all those in that
All three
paragraph.
references to Colby Farm in that paragraph is what you're saying, it should be Corning Farm.
Corning.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if the Colby Farm stuff was acknowledged elsewhere. I will search the document. Fortunately, this one is searchable rather than scanned. No, that's all that was referenced.
Put it into AI, it'll tell you.
How about we add to the prior paragraph, saying that the changes up to, but not in, Colby Farm are going to be amended to the Colby Farm project. I believe that's what he said.
I don't think
The
so.
site plan, I don't think so.
He said that
Yeah.
both developers are gonna come forward with amended site plans.
I
didn't
didn't
hear
get
that.
that.
I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that. We should probably just leave it as is, because there were other conversation around sidewalks, but I think what's relevant is what was before us that evening was relative
That's
to
right.
Corning Farm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that matches the memo that we got from conservation and the email that Mr. Moreau had sent to them.
Yeah, I attended a meeting before that meeting. That was just person from conservation, me, Joan, Rick Charbonneau, and Reginald Moreau. And the way I understood it was that Rick Charbonneau was taking over the section from Morse Falls up to the Corning Farm, and then they're extending the one that was on Corning Farm all the way to Second Driveway, instead of just stopping at the first driveway.
I didn't hear that at all.
Yeah, I don't know that my memory serves me. Are we able to
Yeah.
maybe table it and
Yeah,
go back to the
yeah.
video ourselves and
For-
then vote on it
I
at the next
don't-
meeting?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, this does seem like an important detail.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we should double check.
Guess
Yeah.
we'll table this, and I'm going to
Yeah.
review exactly what they said during the meeting.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
can-
Good catch, though. I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that.
Because yeah, if they made a public commitment, then it should probably be documented
Yeah.
as such. But both developers said that they were amending their plans, I believe. So we'll table
I was
the,
gonna say, yeah.
we'll table those so we can double check those details.
Okay.
Because they are kind of important details.
That was more of a maintenance thing from Charbonneau's standpoint, but.
Because he was the one researching, like he mentioned, he was the one that mentioned that like they'll only be able to fit a 4-foot sidewalk for a portion of it. And I can, looking at the aerial view, I think I can probably see where that would be. But okay, so we'll table that. Next on the agenda is, I guess, we have two things I think under any other business. One is the NRPC regional plan for 2026, and the other one is notifying abutters for the sidewalks. So I heard from Joan that you and Joan were discussing whether or not they would be required to notify the abutters.
I mean, my sense was that we should.
Yeah, and I looked at the ordinances, and the way it's worded is, if they come forward with a site plan or a subdivision, which is a site plan amendment, and even if it's just an amendment, we need to notify abutters. And our regulations say that it is solely the applicant's responsibility to pay for those.
Yep.
I think Reginald Moreau was trying to see if we would pay for those, because I understand kind of that logic, because it is like a benefit to the town that is beyond what he was originally proposing. But technically speaking, I think he has to pay for that according to our ordinances and regulations. Does anyone feel differently about that?
I would agree.
So we'll have Joan report to Reginald Moreau that he will be responsible for following just the usual regulations so he'll have to pay for the abutter notifications because he's basically satisfying the requirement that
Right.
has already been there, that there needs to be sidewalks.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he'll have to notify that, and we'll see if we see that on our September 1st meeting. That would be up to the applicant. Any further discussion on that? Okay. So next is the 2026 regional plan.
Giant print.
He just copy and pasted it.
I'll make sure we didn't miss it.
So regional plan is a requirement of the regional planning commissions. We're supposed to update them every 5 years. The last time we did it was 2014, so not exactly 5 years ago. But nevertheless, it is posted. We have a 30-day public comment period. I'm sure there's all kinds of things that need to be edited or changed or corrected. It is a monster. So if you are interested, take a look at those portions that you're interested in, and send comments any way you wish. I think you can actually comment on the document. On the site, I haven't tried it, that's my understanding, or you could just, email. We've gotten email comments from some other folks, and so whatever's easiest. The goal is to take it to public hearing at the September meeting of the commission.
On the website, I click on it, it opens a PDF, and then below the PDF list, it has a provide public, and it has a public, a comment field.
Right.
Where you can submit, yeah.
So you could do it that way. I mean, you can email, but the public hearing will be on the 16th, Wednesday, September 16th.
Okay. Do you have any comments on the biggest changes that are worth mentioning that might apply, that would be of concern to someone in Litchfield?
I think that the 2014 plan, there are a lot of change. It's just so much has changed. I would say probably the biggest themes that I see coming out of it relate the most to economic development, land use, and natural resources. Probably the biggies that, I mean, right, it's all your bias. But on the economic development front, I thought there were just a few things that really jumped out profoundly. I mean, one trend I think we're seeing everywhere, decline of manufacturing jobs. That impacts this region in particular because we have the highest concentration of manufacturing in the state. And just, even nationally, disproportionately, that's huge. Why does that matter? Because making things matters, right? It's primary industry. And the wages are substantially higher than both average weekly wages and wages in what's our second, largest industry. Again, disproportionately so is retail. So when you look at the disparity between the two, obviously it's enormous. And so that's a continued concern. There's also a lot of, I think, bright spots on the horizon, and there's a lot of things we could talk about, particularly tying into the Army, bio, fabrication, and some of the other technological changes out there that I think are really significant. The increase in the percentage of people working remotely is really dramatic, and much more so than I think we appreciated. It's gone from about 5 to 18% in a pretty short period of time, and that looks like that's an enduring change. That's not budging. That has very, very significant implications for us for a few reasons. One, when you look at the pattern of where people, the communities where remote workers are most significant, highest percentages, Amherst, about 30%. Just think about that. 30% of the population is working remotely. Second, Hollis, Mount Vernon. What's that saying? It's the most affluent towns that have the highest percentage of people working remotely. That suggests that these are people who have a choice, right? And that's increasingly what we're seeing is we have a population of people who choose to live here, could live in any variety of places. That means that protecting the qualities of place has to become a primary focus of economic development. We have to protect and preserve the reasons why people choose to live here. So that's really consequential. Not surprisingly, we also have seen a decline in people commuting out of the region and commuting to Massachusetts in particular. Those are really, they're very significant changes. And we're seeing this on the transportation side. Of the permanent traffic counters that we have, not a single one has shown a return to pre-pandemic traffic levels as of 2025. So capacity and congestion are not the issues that they were, which is probably a good thing because we don't have the money to, right? But so those are all like really interesting things to my view. They have very interesting implications. And then when we kind of look on the natural resources side, more and more interest and concern in conserving open space, that kind of ties also into preserving quality of place. So all these things, I think, really start to tie in. Recreational opportunities is something people are interested in. Outdoor recreation, that's one of the things that, people, if you're coming here for a quality of life, you're not coming here because of our professional sports teams, right, and our museums. You're coming here for different reasons, right? So what are those characters? So to me, those are kind of the themes that really jump out. Other things I think we see, declining school enrollment is a really significant issue, and it's pretty dramatic, and it's so far unrelenting. We're seeing a downward march, particularly in conventional public school enrollment. You are seeing bumps in private school enrollments and in charter school enrollments. So that's just a continuing trend. What are the implications of that going to, especially for some of our smaller communities where they are down to handfuls of students, literally, when you've got graduating classes that, can fit in this room. So those are real issues that people are going to have to think about, communities are going to have to think about. Obviously, the aging of the population is another one, second oldest state. And in particular, once again, our smaller communities and ones that are aging the fastest. And, younger, we do have a couple of outliers, Brookline being one, where people seem to want to go to Brookline for their schools. People all want to be in Hollis, Brookline, I guess, and Brookline's the place they go. So there's a few outliers there where you see those kinds of changes, but then you've got communities like Lineboro's our oldest, so not surprising. I think in some ways. So these are when I kind of talk about painting fog lines, I mean it. We really do have to think about how to be planning to be age friendly, and when you look at the reality that as people age, the majority of senior citizens have at least one disability, the majority. And a very high percentage, I don't have the statistics in front of me, have at least two. So as we think about that, we should be anyway, but we've really got to be thinking about accessibility. And making it as much universally accessible as we can. And that means everything from our public buildings, to our parks, our playgrounds, and kind of thinking about it through that lens. And it's generally not something that we do. So that's going to become increasingly important. And it's all kinds of things. It's having an accessible entrance to a playground, but it's all wood chips. Great, you can't go any farther. It's all kinds of things that we've got to start to be thinking about, because it is just a reality. It is an older population we're going to have, no matter what else we do. Of course, we also want to have strategies to attract younger people and families and all those kinds of things. Those are true, but it is something that we're going to have to be thinking about more. I'm sure there's a ton more I could be talking about, but invasive insects.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the summary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jay.
Okay. Any other business for this evening? So.
Does that mean we canceled our meeting, the second meeting for this month?
Yeah, we have no items on the agenda, so should
I
we
think so.
probably, I heard from Joan that there was nothing.
Oh, then, yeah, because nothing can come in at this point.
Yeah, so I guess, should we formally vote to cancel that
Sure.
meeting? Okay, would someone like to make a motion to cancel the August 18th meeting of the planning board?
So moved.
26. Okay, we have a motion, and we have a second. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor of canceling the August 18th meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes 5-0-0. Anything else we want to talk about before we adjourn? Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
We have a motion,
I'll second.
and we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes 5-0-0. Thank you for watching the August 4th meeting.